Before 1860, there were no towns or cities in Idaho. Of course, Franklin was the first town established in Idaho, in Bear Lake County. Idaho Falls today sits in the middle of the largest expanse of irrigated farmland in America and perhaps in the world. But ironically, it was the discovery of gold that led to the establishment of Idaho Falls. Gold was discovered in the early 1860s in the area around Virginia City, Montana, and people needed a way to get across the Snake River to get up to the gold fields. And so a ferry was established in 1862, approximately 9 miles upstream from Idaho Falls, near the settlement of Coltman. The ferry was too slow. There was too many people that need to get across the river. So an enterprising individual by the name of Matt Taylor decided to build a bridge, and he located a spot called Black Canyon near the present-day Broadway Bridge. And he decided that was the ideal place to build a bridge. And that's the beginning of Idaho Falls. With the Matt Taylor Bridge was constructed in the winter of 1865 and completed in 1866.
Lone Star belt buckles and old face.
You might not recognize this crusty old cowboy, but you might recognize his name, Fred Kiefer. Kiefer's Island in the middle of the Snake River near the Johns Hole Bridge is an Idaho landmark named for this Idaho legend. Fred and his brother Frank spent the summers in this cabin from 1938 to 1958. They were born more than 100 years ago in 1891. The first twins born in Idaho Falls when it was still called Eagle Rock.
When this was Eagle Rock, why, the town was full of outlaws and cattle rustlers. It was a pretty tough country in here.
Frank died in 1976, but I had the chance to interview Fred 10 years ago. He told me then he had one wish.
Maybe I could make it 100.
You'd like to make it to 100?
Yeah.
You feeling good? You think you'll do it?
I think I could.
Fred never made it to 100. He died the year after our interview at the age of 96. But his legacy lives on here at the Bonneville County Museum. This room is just the way I remember his living room, right down to this chair that he used as a deputy sheriff.
And I said, where are my friends? They all over there in the jail.
Bonneville High School history teacher Linden Bateman knew Fred well. He spent many hours with him and took hundreds of school kids to hear his tales of the Old West.
He met Buffalo Bill in 1914. Buffalo Bill and Annie Oakley came to town that year to participate in the War Bonnet Roundup, and Fred was there. And he lived the history.
For those of us who were lucky enough to meet Fred Kiefer, it's a memory we'll never forget. For younger generations, he's a legend worth learning about.
Really, the history of Bonneville County, at 100 years now, the last 62 years, Idaho National Lab has been part of that history. The lab has been here since 1949. It's actually not in Bonneville County, but a bulk of the employees that work at the Idaho National Laboratory today are in Idaho Falls and Bonneville County. They're part of the fabric of the community. The original use for what was known as the Arco Desert during World War II was as a naval gunnery range. At the end of World War II, the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission realized there was a need for what they termed a national reactor testing station. One location in the nation to do reactor testing, decide what are the best designs, what are the best materials, what can we do to use this as an energy resource. And it was announced in 1949 that this would be home to the National Reactor Testing Station.
Back in the 1950s and 1960s, it was world-renowned for its capability to support the commercial nuclear power industry. Over the years, there were 52 power reactors or test reactors that operated at the site.
Which is the largest concentration in the world. Nobody else has built that many in one geographic location. Out of those 52 reactors today, we have 3 that are funded to operate, including what is known as the largest test reactor in the world.
So virtually every nuclear power reactor that exists in the world today can trace its lineage back to work that was done here at the National Reactor Test Station.
Starting this whole series of reactors, the first of the 52 was Experimental Breeder Reactor 1, and on December 20th, 1951, EBR-1 generated enough electricity to light 4 200-watt light bulbs. First time anywhere in the world a reactor made that much electricity. EBR-1 was the birth of nuclear power for the nation and really for the world.
While other national laboratories focused on nuclear weapons development, the National Reactor Testing Station was the place in the world for commercial nuclear energy research and development. At the same time, the test station was contributing to national defense. This included reprocessing government-owned spent nuclear fuels to recover highly enriched uranium, disposing of nuclear weapons waste from other field sites, and the Navy conducting nuclear reactor propulsion research and development and training of nuclear Navy sailors.
For every big program at the site, you can see that where people came here for the work, may have been long-term or short-term, but they started putting down roots in Bonneville County, in Idaho Falls, and raising families here.
As we head into the future, we can take comfort in knowing that Idahoans and the INL have always risen to the occasion that new circumstances and new challenges present. We are very proud of our history and look forward to a bright future.